Well, probably the most interesting story in politics right now is what's going on in Georgia. Okay. Now, it is getting to the point where it is so complicated and so complex because of these allegations from Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood in regards to essentially accusing a Republican government that has a Republican governor and Republican legislator of rigging the election against a Republican president. That accusation has so many more layers to it than I think the average person actually realizes. And it is really throwing a wrench and causing division among the Republican Party in regards to this upcoming Senate race in Georgia. But before we get into that, my name is Greg Foreman and you're watching a Black Conservative Perspective. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black Conservative Perspective, aka a leftist worst nightmare. You can also follow me on Twitter and Parler at GForemanBCP. But right before we get into this, guys, you guys know I am currently fighting the war on flushable wipes. That's right. Wipes clog your pipes. They could cost your local municipality up to millions of dollars in taxpayer money to clean out those pipes, or it could cost you up to thousands of dollars that'll look great in any bathroom. It is a perfect holiday. 10% of net proceeds will go to Toys for had released an article in which they are basically saying that Georgia Trump supporters are considering election boycott over fraud claims. So if you guys remember, I did a video warning about how liberals were promoting this idea that Trump supporters need to boycott Georgia as a response to the allegations from Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood that the Georgia election was rigged. Now, the liberals obviously want to push this idea because that's going to be a guaranteed way for the Democrats to win. But it is interesting seeing the mainstream outlets now start to pick up on this, because it's not just Newsmax. We also have CBS starting to pick up on it. The president has also responded to this as well, and we're going to get in that later, but mainstream outlets are picking up on this. So this is something I have to talk about. Now, what Newsmax says is that President Trump's repeated claims of attempting to cast doubt on the Georgia's electoral process have pushed his supporters to consider boycotting the state's upcoming Senate runoffs. According to Politico, many Trump supporters are calling to abstain from the two elections, despite the fact that they will decide which party ends up in control of the Senate because, quote, the two GOP candidates, Senator Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue, are not only insufficiently Trump, they may be complicit in Georgia's electoral fraud. Now, attorney Lynn Wood, who's apparently been working with Sidney Powell, has responded to some backlash that the establishment GOP has sent towards them in regards to them potentially meddling in the Georgia Senate races, in which Lynn Wood says, quote, some leaders in GA and national GOP complain I am hurting chances of Kelly Loeffler and Senator David Perdue to win runoff and save Senate control. He said, quote, they are the ones hurting those chances by failing to publicly demand investigation of fraud and special session of legislator look in the mirror. And he also called on his followers to, quote, threaten to withhold their votes and money from candidates until they push for investigations of the election. Now, Atlanta Tea Party founder Debbie Dooley expressed disbelief about the idea of conservatives boycotting the runoffs by saying, quote, that's like cutting off your nose to spite your face, she said to Politico. And, quote, the Republicans have to win one of those seats. If the Democrats win both those seats, if you boycott the runoff or write in names, you are giving Democrats control of the Senate and they will have total control of the government. All right. President Trump had came out and quote tweeted Newsmax, essentially saying that no, the 2020 election was a total scam. We won by a lot and we will hopefully turn over the fraudulent result, but we must get out and help David and Kelly, two great people. Otherwise, we are playing right into the hands of some very sick people. I will be in Georgia on Saturday. All right, guys. So as you can see, there's a lot of conflicting messages and moving parts when it comes to this story. Let me try to piece it together for you, because not enough conservative talking heads are actually focused on this. This is probably the biggest story going on right now. So President Trump essentially saying that he is supporting the establishment Republican candidates. He's saying it right here in this tweet. We need to help David and Kelly get elected. So if what Sidney Powell is saying is true, right? And again, reminder, what she's saying is that a Republican governor and legislator rigged an election against a Republican president, okay? If what she's saying is true, what sense does it make for President Trump to go out and support two establishment senators in the upcoming Senate race? Also, why would you vote in an election that you think is rigged, right? Like, if you think the election is rigged to the point where it doesn't matter who you vote for, and that the Georgian government is essentially switching votes, then again, there's no point in the vote, right? And that's why this boycott got brought up in the first place. I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from here in terms of how messy a lot of this stuff is getting. The only way it would make sense, in my opinion, is if President Trump assumes he's going to stay in office, which he might. He probably does assume he's going to stay in office, and he may feel like he needs those senators to be there, and he needs that Senate majority to be Republican in order to be able to get things done efficiently. So that could be one explanation. Now, the other explanation, in my opinion, would be that this kind of makes sense in response to why the Trump campaign distanced themselves from Sidney Powell. Because you got to understand, Trump is a political outsider, right? So it's not like he came into office with a lot of political infrastructure or knowing a lot of people or having a lot of friends, or that he's a seasoned politician. So I would imagine that President Trump has relied a lot on the establishment Republicans to make his way around Congress and around Washington and around policies, and basically trying to operate and control the government. So what Sidney Powell is saying is in direct opposition to that. Is in direct opposition to the establishment Republicans. And I feel like the more information that comes out, the more obvious it becomes to me that the establishment Republicans have pressured Trump into disassociating with Sidney Powell because of those Georgia allegations. That's just my opinion. And that's solely based off what I'm seeing the president tweet versus what Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood are saying versus what the establishment Republicans are saying. Another explanation could be that Trump may be playing some, 5D chess here and trying to turn the senators of Georgia who are up for re-election against the Georgia governor and the secretary there as a means of trying to pressure them to do more in regards to making sure that all legal votes are counted, and that they address the concerns with the mail-in ballots, particularly the matching of signatures and things of that nature that President Trump has talked about. He could essentially be saying, listen, if you don't come out and fight harder for this effort, then I may or may not support you in the Georgia Senate race. But as we can see, President Trump has already come out and given his support to those senators, while at the same time, Lynn Wood is basically saying that those senators are not doing enough, and they have gone on a full-blown attack against the Georgia government. So it seems to me that the president may be between a rock and a hard place in terms of trying to help us Trump supporters understand the place that Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood have in regards to this fraud investigation versus what's going on with the establishment GOP, specifically regarding these Senate elections. Because again, President Trump has been all in on there's been massive fraud, right? And Georgia is one of the states where he's saying that happened. Now, the only difference between the Trump legal team accusations and the Sidney Powell accusations is that the Trump legal team is not actually accusing the governor and the GOP there of rigging the vote machines. The only thing they're accusing them of not doing enough to protect the integrity of the election in terms of making sure that mail-in ballots and absentee ballots are legitimate. Those are two very different accusations. Very different accusations. So that is a fine, nuanced difference that I think people should understand. Now, my opinion on the actual idea of boycotting the Georgia Senate elections. Here's my thing. If you're boycotting because you're fed up with the Republican Party from a policy standpoint, right, and you may happen to be a Trump supporter, but at the same time, you don't necessarily agree with the Republican Party, I 100% understand the boycott, right, from a policy perspective if you happen to don't agree with it. That's what I'm saying. However, if you're boycotting it solely for the purpose of what Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood are saying, then I don't think that's a good idea, because the president himself is telling you that what he wants is for you to vote for David and Kelly, and that should override what Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood are saying, if you believe the president, right? And essentially the president is saying you need to go out there and vote for them. So I just wanted to bring this to the attention of everybody, because I think that this is a story that is not being talked about enough and discussed enough, because there's a lot of inconsistencies that I'm seeing in regards to what people are actually saying versus what they're actually doing. So we'll see what happens. I'm interested in knowing you guys' thoughts in regards to this Senate election in Georgia. Do you think it's a good idea to boycott? And why do you think that President Trump is telling people not to boycott? Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a certain perspective. Peace.